Welcome to the UCLI Legal Lounge. This is a podcast helping you on your journey towards law school. My name is Sabrina Ruiz-Monroy, and I'm the Associate Director at UCLI. Each episode, we interview law students, lawyers, and law admissions experts to bring you valuable insight and amazing tips on making the path towards law school just a little bit easier. And this podcast is created by the Utah Center for Legal Inclusion, or for short, UCLI. UCLI is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing the goals of fairness, of opportunity, and inclusion in Utah's legal profession. We work to encourage people of all ages, all backgrounds, and considering joining this legal profession. Our episode this week is brought to you by the Utah Podcast Studio. Utah Podcast Studio is a premier recording facility, and it's located in West Jordan, Utah. It's dedicated towards empowering creators by providing a world-class environment for audio and video production. Their mission is to amplify voices with confidence and with clarity, fostering a creative space where impactful stories like the ones that we hope to share today are going to be shared. And we hope that we can share that in a way that really just spreads an amazing message in communities all over. You can learn more about the Utah Podcast Studio at utahpodcaststudio.com. And for today's special first episode, I'm joined by three people, my amazing colleagues, and truly who are the heart of UCLI and what UCLI is all about. We have the Executive Director, Kaitlyn Pieper, the Communications Manager, Emily Zárate, and then our Administrative Coordinator, Helen Wang. Kaitlyn, we'll start with you first. I'll introduce you a little bit briefly here. Kaitlyn has a fascinating background in community policy, in language services. I mean, I can go on and on, Kaitlyn, honestly. You've just got this huge repertoire. It's amazing. And in education and leadership. And she now leads UCLI in its work to make law more inclusive, more accessible. Emily is a Utah State University graduate who is not only hardworking, she's passionate about supporting first-generational students and plans to also pursue her JD. I think that's a really, really neat perspective, and I'm sure I'll talk a little bit more about Helen as well. That's a unique perspective. And finally, Helen is a University of Utah graduate who first planned to pursue pharmacy. I mean, come on, that's so different, right? I hope, hopefully we'll be able to chat some more about that at some point in this episode or in the ones to come here. But your studies of extracurricular activities sparked a passion for law and for nonprofit work. You had some extensive background in that and experience in that you brought as an intern first for UCLI, which was amazing. I'm so glad that you're here working for UCLI now. And then that inspired your work to continue with community engagement, and now you're on your path now going to law school. Is that right? Or you're going to be applying to law school? Yeah. Okay. I know it's daunting, right? So I'm just really grateful you're here with us to share that perspective. So since this is our first episode, I think that it's a really great place to start off and talk about why we wanted to make this podcast in the first place. Why is it that this is a thing? Why did we want to launch this? Let's start with Emily, if that's all right with you guys. Emily, if you could share a little bit about your vision behind the podcast and why UCLI Legal Lounge. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So this project is something that I am very passionate about. I've been working on this, collectively with interns and staff for over a year and a half. And so it's really exciting to finally see it launch. But essentially, how this podcast came to be is that while I was living in Savannah, Georgia.
Humid over there.
Yes, extremely. While I was living there, I had a lot of time to myself. And I just remember being in my living room and thinking, wow, if I didn't have UCLI, I wouldn't have access, as someone who's all the way across the country, I wouldn't have access to everything that they give me. And I was like, how can we reach a broader audience? And there's this thing that we do every Monday where we bring on an attorney and they talk to our interns and they give them perspectives, advice, and it's just really valuable content. And I was like, why don't we share this with other people. Like, we don't have to keep this to ourselves. And so that's when the idea of the podcast came to be. I brought it up to Kaitlyn. She was super supportive. Same with John Wyas. He was our old associate director. They were both very supportive. And then with the help of so many interns and volunteers, we're here now.
Wow. Thanks so much for sharing that. And do you mind me asking, did you start off as an intern or automatically working here at the Utah Center for Legal Inclusion?
Yeah, so I originally applied to be an intern. And then, yeah, so it was great. But then the administrative coordinator position opened up, and I applied for it, and I got it. And I'm so thankful that I got it, because it's been an incredible journey.
Well, and you've been such an amazing colleague, so thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Kaitlyn, what about you? What is the why behind this podcast for you, and what you hope to gain from it or give people?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of hard to get into the why of the podcast without getting into the why of the Utah Center for Legal Inclusion. So for that, I'll just start there. Yeah. That maybe we can all close our eyes and do a thought experiment.
Okay, wait.
Yeah,
so exciting. I love this. Yeah.
And everyone just imagine an attorney, imagine a lawyer, and imagine a judge. Okay, open your eyes.
Do you want me to tell you what I thought of?
Yeah, sure.
I thought of two men in the courtroom, and I don't know if that's just in my experience, if I've seen anything on TV. Having been to court before as well, that's the norm for me. So that's immediately what came to my mind when you did that exercise. So.
Yeah. If anyone else wants to share, feel free to jump in. But I think for most of us, that's what we imagine. And it's not just this. It's not just the legal profession. It's a lot of professions that historically have been somewhat elite and have had somewhat, a lengthier path to get there. Like a lot, when people do this exercise, like you typically imagine a white man in the role. And it's not just about implicit bias, like it's about the reality, to your point, Sabrina. So what is the reality, right? Like when it comes to gender in the legal profession, nationwide, it's about 37% of women who make up the national legal profession here in the U.S. But when you look at Utah, it's closer to 26%, so just a quarter, despite the fact that we've got half of the population here who are women. If you look at race and ethnicity, the last collected number that we saw in 2024 was 7.5% attorneys of color who chose to self-disclose that information, so that number could be a little bit higher. This is in a state where 1 in 5 people is a person of color, right? And so, and that number's going up. Like it'll be 1 in 3 people within the next couple decades. So it's not just a matter of like not having people who represent various groups here in the state. It's a matter of barriers and access to the legal profession, to law school, all of that. I'm guessing also that maybe you didn't imagine a disabled lawyer in the exercise, right? And that's disability is another demographic category that's super underrepresented in Utah's legal profession. And there are lots of others that I'm sure you can think of, right? Veterans, members of the LGBTQ plus community, individuals from rural communities, right? Members of certain faith groups, whatever. Like by a lot of metrics, Utah's legal profession isn't currently representative of the population that it's literally representing, right? In courtrooms, in legal cases, whatever. So, so why does it matter? I guess
all of that, right? It encompasses everything that you've mentioned.
Yeah. And there are a lot of professions and academic programs are exclusive. A lot of it's by design. But we think that the legal profession is a really uniquely powerful one. And so like it literally writes and discusses and changes the laws that we live by societally. It determines the fate of people who are within the justice system. It provides advice to people when they're at their lowest moments and sometimes life-changing moments. So at UCLI, we believe that when the bar and the bench are truly representative of the people they serve, that we have the best shot at actually achieving justice. So basically, a bunch of incredible attorneys and legal professionals came together. This was back in 2017 And this includes former Utah Supreme Court Chief Justice Christine Durham.
Love her.
And Fran Wickstrom and a lot of other incredible attorneys here in Utah's community who came together to say, like, this stuff matters. They were the ones who created this nonprofit, the Utah Center for Legal Inclusion, with the goal of focusing on overcoming obstacles that exist for students or individuals from historically underrepresented backgrounds. And the idea is to provide them with the resources they need, whether that's time, money, connections, information, whatever, to make it to law school, to make it through law school, and then into Utah's legal profession. So that's the purpose of the organization. And that's what we hope to accomplish through this podcast, is to create yet another avenue to give future lawyers the tools that they need to succeed.
I'm hoping you're in your kitchen making some sort of pasta listening to this podcast and going, I've never thought about going to law school because I didn't think it was possible for me. However, wow, this is a possibility. And hearing Kaitlyn, I'm hoping that you envision yourself potentially right there at the bench, one day, helping establish an environment where people can feel safe about what they're learning, about who is representing them, and also knowing that you bring a very valuable, palpable experience to the table that is valued, very, very valued, and just is pushing forth what law is supposed to be, not only in the state of Utah, but in the country. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kaitlyn. I really appreciate that. And with that, Helen, I'd love to ask you, based off of what Kaitlyn shared, which were some amazing statistics about not only Utah specifically, but also about what Utah's legal profession exactly looks like. How do you see this podcast affecting students as they listen and, pay attention to what we're sharing?
I mean, yeah, I think for me personally, I didn't even think about law school before I went to college. And so even if they don't take this information and go to law school, I still think there's going to be a lot of useful information, whether they're applying to do a career in law or adjacent to law or even beyond law. I think this is all like really useful information to hear and grow from.
Thanks so much, Helen. And yeah, I think this is hopefully something that people can use in every profession, right? So I appreciate that. And I guess I'll also, if that's all right with you guys, I'll answer this question about...
Well, we wanted to get more of your story. Like, you're the host of this podcast. You're preparing for your own journey.
I am.
Into law school and the legal profession. Like, we would love to know, why does this podcast matter to you personally? What's your backstory? Why so invested?
Yeah, so fun. Just to share with everyone also listening, I'll just start off with the fact that I had some amazing mentors growing up. I mean, I just thinking back to when I was 9, 10 years old in Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, I had just joined the Boys and Girls Club. And I had some terrific counselors and just admin who cared profoundly about my development as a person and what I was going to achieve in that time in their program and who I was going to grow up to become. And they were just these amazing advocates. And so I had that right off the bat. I'd say I was very privileged in that way. And then all of a sudden I went to marine science magnet program in middle school. And I had such amazing teachers teach me about tagging sharks, which is so random, right? And I loved it. I loved science, and I loved science then. I love it today. And then I went to high school. Again, amazing science teachers, amazing historians, and they always pushed me, and they were always on my team, and they always asked, I'd say, really inspired questions and supported me in that way. And then I got to college, and I also had a couple professors, mentors who helped me understand what research would look like. And as I have gone through undergrad, it was, I want to say, my junior year where I realized, oh, wow, I write really well in this environmental law class. Actually, one of the professors that my previous professor is now teaching at the University of Utah Law School, the College of Law. And he mentioned to me, he's like, Sabrina, you write really well. I would encourage you to think about law school. And that was, I'd say, one of the first times where I was like, oh man, maybe this is something that I could do. I don't know if I have the skills for it. either the technical writing skills or maybe the soft skills. I get nervous talking to other people in a big profession like that. But I was like, man, I don't know if I have those resources yet to get me there. I don't know what's needed. I don't know what the LSAT is. Like, what is that? It costs $200+ to register for that. Like, what in the world? And then I'm surrounded by other students who are taking the test, but then all of a sudden they don't have to worry about the money, which not a bad thing. I think that's amazing. If you don't have to worry about that, fantastic. But I did, because on top of paying for rent and working 2 jobs and then trying to do the best that I could in my classes, I had to worry about that. And then LSAT prep and buying that, I was overwhelmed, and I didn't really know where to look. I went on Facebook Marketplace and I got some the PowerScore Bible books. Those were really helpful for me. And I studied, and it paid off. I did really well, but it was hard. It was so hard. Eventually I found out about what UCLI was. I interned for UCLI, and I have been, oh man, it was like diving into this portal of just attorneys, networking, even some professors who have just been really great advocates, colleagues who have the in and outs of who to speak to in not only just the legal world generally and what that even looks like, but Utah specifically. Like, who do I talk to? Who is Justice Christine Durham? How do I get in contact with this attorney for this practice area? And I just have been so touched, I'd say, on a level that I hope to share with students listening in on this podcast. I have been privileged to have that opportunity, and I have received these amazing resources. And there are students that just don't know. There are students that don't have the social capital. That's what it's all about, right? Either the financial means, social capital, the know-how. You don't know what you don't know. And there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of students that have no idea and don't know where to start. And I want to be a small part of that journey. And I think that's what this podcast is really made for. And I'm just honored to be a part of it, and grateful, Emily, that you thought about that idea when you were in good old humid Savannah, Georgia, and that we get to be such an intimate part of this, and that the attorneys and judges and other legal professionals that will be joining us get to have that opportunity too. So thanks for asking me. Sabrina, long way to answer that, but no, I appreciate that. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the different perspectives that we have, I think, in our roles as well. I would love to bring us over here to Helen, if that's all right with you, Helen. You're the newest member of UCLI, which is such an exciting addition. And you have a background in biochemistry from the U. I mean, talk about what, you're like, pharmacy, how does that relate to these legal studies? And your journey took a huge turn from pharmaceuticals and biochemistry, science, hard stuff there, to also hard stuff, but completely different stuff, right? And I'd love to learn a little bit more about what led you to UCLI and what inspired that shift, because I can guarantee you that there are students listening that are like, I don't know if I want to go to law school. I've got a degree in philosophy. Actually, there's lots of philosophy majors that go to law school, but I've got a degree in art or dancing or opera singing.
Yeah. So when I went into the U as an undergrad, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just chose biochemistry.
Just naturally, biochemistry is the first option. Okay.
Yes, actually, I like biology and chemistry, and I didn't like physics. So I was like, biochemistry.
Okay.
I still had to do physics. But just going through undergrad, and people told me before, like, if you like biochemistry, you should do pharmacy. And I think that's something I always heard. So I decided I'm also going to do pharmacy as well. And I actually started working as a pharmacy technician at the University of Utah hospitals. And just working there and talking, they're such amazing people working to save people's lives. Just talking with them, I realized that really wasn't my passion. Along the side, I also did a lot of student-led initiatives where I work closely with community partners as well as nonprofit organizations. So, for example, I went down to Moab and I worked with the Youth Garden Project as as the Moab Multicultural Center with like some projects and hearing from the people that work there. And just hearing from them, I realized that I really liked listening to their stories. And I learned so much just from hearing about their own perspective and just learning about how they are willing to contribute to the community. And so just realizing that, I did more research and I was like, I want to work in the community, but also I want to create impact. And so that's kind of what led me on to the law path as well. And with UCLI, I was doing more research and I came upon UCLI, and the mission and the values really aligned with what I want to do with community work as well as how I want to pursue law. So this was like the perfect combination.
Thanks, Helen. And you were an incredible intern.
Oh, thank you.
We loved having you as an intern. And I'd love to ask, what do you feel has changed for you, or what would you say you've learned since joining UCLI, and what surprised you?
Yeah, one thing that I did in undergrad was I worked with a lot of college students. And so working with UCLI, I was able to work with such a wide variety of backgrounds and experiences. So UCLI has programs with elementary students, high school students, law students, lawyers, and just being able to be involved in so many different programs really was eye-opening, and learning about how you could create that impact within the community, just because there's just so much important things that go into development throughout the years, especially for an elementary school student, if they could start thinking about if they could be a lawyer and continue their path. I think that's really important in terms of creating a more inclusive environment for the legal field here in Utah.
That's great, Helen. And what do you feel like what excites you the most about being on this UCLI Legal Lounge podcast? And then also, what are maybe some of the conversations that you're excited to listen to?
Yeah, I am really excited just to hear more from all the different people that are coming here. I think for me, and hopefully for many others, I think this is a really unique opportunity to learn and grow and just hear personal stories from individuals who oftentimes don't have that platform to kind of share a more personal side. Just because when you look at court videos, it's always very formal, always very professional.
Right.
And you don't often hear people telling oh, back when I was an undergrad, or back when
I took an all-nighter in law school,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back when I was drinking a lot of coffee. So I think having that connection and having that space will really allow for just me and others to feel that personal connection and just to grow from those stories.
Well, thanks so much, Helen, for sharing that. I'd love to move on to this more, the more kind of educational part of this podcast. And one of the biggest goals here is to encourage students, right? To encourage individuals that are listening here. Emily, when you think about law students or aspiring law students who are going to be listening, what do you hope they take away from this podcast series?
That's a great question. So I think above all, I hope that they take away that there are people that are willing to help them, and there are people who have been in similar situations as them, and that their goal of law school is attainable. Before I got involved with UCLI, law school felt like this mountain that felt impossible to climb.
Yeah.
And now that I've been around students and attorneys and judges that have had similar experiences as mine, it's been very encouraging, because I'm wow, they did it and they went through very similar things that I went through.
So you're not alone.
Exactly. And so that's above all, that's what I hope they take away from this podcast, is that they're not alone and that there's people willing to help them and that they belong in Utah's legal community.
And I think that covers this idea of the imposter syndrome, right? We hear about that all the time. And There are students even right now that are in law school that I know, and there are even attorneys who will talk to me and they're like, oh yeah, Sabrina, I'm not ready for that deposition. I'm like, oh my goodness, good luck. I'm rooting for you. You've got this. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if I do. I'm like, please know that you are amazing. And here's the thing, it's not going to go away all the time, right? But knowing that you are enough, knowing that you are capable, and that you have a plethora of people who are just rooting for you and who might not even know your name personally. I think that is so immensely powerful to know. Exactly. Because they're going to be intimidated by the process. I'm intimidated by the process. And I'm sure, Helen, you're applying right now. How are you feeling? Are you scared a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you feel like intimidates you the most in this process towards law school?
I mean, I think for me, I definitely came in from getting a lot of resources for pre-med students. So I felt like I didn't know what was happening going into, like, compared to other pre-law students. So I think that's my biggest fear going in.
The differences and navigating that. No, that makes total sense. So I mean, it's there, right? Intimidation will be there. It'll be there in law school when you're, oh man, like everyone is smart. Everyone is going to be smart. You are also smart. You got there, right? But and then you're going to take the bar. And you're going to be freaking out for that. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be daunting. It is going to be there, and you're going to be scared. It is okay. That is an emotion that I feel like, I don't know, we don't explore being embarrassed enough. We don't explore being scared enough because it's just real. And I think that we have to understand that that's a process of any application, but something as daunting as law school, it's just, that's part of the process. But do you have a person helping you? And that's what we're hoping to provide, right? Emily, I'd love to kind of ask you to provide the listeners with a little bit of a sneak peek. What kind of conversations do you think we'll be having here at the UCLI Legal Lounge? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
My vision for this podcast was to provide students with real, honest conversations. Like you were talking about earlier, we don't often hear attorneys or judges or even law students talking about the behind the scenes of their lives.
Right.
We don't get to hear about how, like, oh, I had a breakdown because I was scared to go into court. Right. We don't hear about those things often. And so I really hope that this podcast is able to humanize the law profession and to really, provide comfort for those who are feeling lost.
Thank you so much, Emily. Yeah. And Kaitlyn, I guess, do you have any insights with that as well? Do you know what we might be hearing from, or what we're going to be learning about?
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. We're none of us on the staff are attorneys yet. My colleagues certainly will be someday. But we're going to be bringing in legal experts. We're going to be bringing in professionals from law schools and other places who can really give us concrete information in addition to sharing stories and, like, hopefully relatable experiences. So. And I just wanted to kind of contextualize a little bit. We're living in sort of an interesting moment for law school education right now.
Right.
There's a complex landscape out there, a lot of experimentation and changes to how the LSAT and even the bar exam are being administered. Yeah. Again, I'm not an expert. You will hear from the experts later on in this podcast, but a little bit of context for why this information and why this podcast is maybe more important than it ever has been. But Utah has 2 law schools, right? We have the S.J. Quinney College of Law at the University of Utah. We have the J. Reuben Clark Law School at Brigham Young University. And here's a little sneak peek into their upcoming graduate classes. For the University of Utah's class of 2026, their median LSAT score when they applied was 164. This is out of one.
Oh, wow.
And they had a median GPA of 3.85. Okay, BYU's class of 2025 had a median LSAT score of 168 and a median GPA of 3.92.
Helen's like freaking out a little bit. No.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to freak you out with the numbers. It's more just about showcasing like not only is the law a competitive environment, but the process to getting to law school is increasingly competitive.
Right.
And especially if you're a Utahn who wants to stay here in your home state, it's really important to be aware of these stats and the context. So we're going to hear from experts who can help you set goals, and work towards them, teach you how to showcase your own strengths as you navigate the application process. You'll get a lot of practical tips on this podcast about how to maximize your chances of success for getting into your dream law school, no matter where that is. And then additionally, like you were saying, Emily, we do want to share those real life stories of real life pre-law students, law students, attorneys, judges, legal professionals of all types. We don't want to sugarcoat things. We want to be honest and give you a real sense of what it takes to not only get into law school, but then also, survive in the profession. So we'll bring on attorneys who can share about their area of law or their field of practice, share what it's actually like on the daily. What types of things are they doing? Well, hopefully that'll give you a sense of like the paths that might genuinely interest you for your future legal career. We'll try to share pros and cons of various practice areas and bring on guests who won't give a filtered account of their lived reality.
Give us the real deal.
Exactly. Yeah. And then finally, we always want to have that sort of inclusion perspective and lens on our episodes. So, we want our guests to bring a perspective that's useful to you if you feel like you don't fit the molds of the ideal or typical attorney, no matter in what way, right? Everyone has a unique background and set of circumstances that they'll be bringing that inform how we all see the world. And so we'll try to showcase stories that can kind of shed light on different angles of identity and hopefully in a way that feels relatable for all of our listeners.
Gosh, I am so excited. Hopefully we get, an attorney that's Batman by night and father by night, but attorney and board member day or something. I am so excited for these conversations coming up, and I got that one laugh from you there, Kaitlyn. But our hope, right, is to make this podcast a space again where you feel like you're heard, where you feel like you have this support behind you. Again, I don't know who's listening to this podcast, and I so badly wish that I could, say hi to you, whoever you may be. And I'm sure the same goes for the colleagues here that I have. But just know that you are you're valued and you can do this. We are just rooting for you. That's the entire purpose of this podcast. And we hope that you really feel us pushing you and guiding you towards those steps towards law school. Kaitlyn, Emily, Helen, thank you so much for today, for helping this entire project of launching the UCLI Legal Lounge. This first episode was all about introducing our listeners to what we're doing here, right? Giving them the skeletons of who we are, what our mission is, who the heck is UCLI, why are they important, what is the mission, right? And helping them understand what kind of conversations we're going to have coming up. So to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in on our very first episode. And if you enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more, please make sure to follow us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and then to check out UCLI's work at utahcli.org. We'd also love to hear from you. I mean, you have the perspectives, you guys have the questions, you have those lived experiences that are going to help us understand how we can best give back to you. So please reach out with any questions, any topic of interest and ideas at UCLI at utahcli.org. We'll be back soon with more episodes featuring law students, lawyers, again, law school experts, other legal professionals to help you on that journey that you have. Again, it's not anyone else's journey. This is your journey. This is what you're doing to help advance yourself into where you want to be. We have this privilege to be a part of it. So until next time, this is the UCLI Legal Lounge. Bye, guys.